We're going to jump this, folks. I want to welcome everybody. Good evening. This is FMA discussion. This is episode 140, and tonight is part 2. Those who have not seen part 1, I highly recommend you do. It's on the YouTube channel, FMA discussion. So anyway, getting back to, this is part 2 of FMA in compare and contrast to FAMA and competing distinctions, journey from classical to non-classical. Tonight, I have the same guest as episode 1, which is Dwight Woods, Sifu Dwight Woods. We got Guru Mark Stewart, and we have Guru Mahipal. And just like last time, this is theme-based. So sit back and enjoy. If you do have questions, please put them on the side, and we will definitely get to those. This episode actually is based on questions from the first episode. So please, if you do have questions, let us know. Either put them on the side, or you can PM any one of us. Again, so let's get into the introduction. So we'll start with Sifu Dwight.
Oh, what is that? Because I'm the oldest?
I just go in alphabetical order, first name.
Ew. All right, I'm Dwight Woods. I train under Dan Inosano since 1983, and I used to have a school here in Miami. I'm kind of retired from that, and I have a little small group here in Miami.
Okay, next, Guru Mahipal.
I run the immersion labs for the last 5 years. My focus has been hoplology, essentially exploring arts from around the world. And as far as my FMA goes, as I've mentioned earlier, we quite a few teachers, but the ones I should acknowledge are Manron Saturno, Mon Caballero, Guro Mark Stewart, Maestro Keating, and Guru Mushtaq Ali Ansari, and Maya Soderholm. So I'll leave it at that.
All right. Oh, and incidentally, as a side note, Mr. Keating did call back, so fingers crossed. All right, and last but certainly not least, Guru Mark Stewart.
Om Mani Padme Hum. Okay, so by the way, Mahi, I just think you mistook Mark Makita for me. You said me. You said my name.
Did I?
That's
okay.
Mark Makita. You wanted to say Makita, right?
I meant Makita.
Makita, not me. Okay. All right. So okay, back to me. Yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit more of what I didn't say about myself last time. But no joke, I've been doing martial arts since 1974, and actually started teaching when in 1975. When I was 16 years old, I was a brown belt in Okinawan karate. So I started already teaching classes, from 1975. And I just wanted to mention that I really enjoy teaching, and that teaching is really rewarding on many levels, but in the sense of really understanding the details of what you're doing inside and out. The only way to do it is to share it. I started Filipino martial arts in 1979, originally in Doce Paras, and then my Guro at the time started getting into Pikiti Tertia, so we made that switch. Well, we didn't make the switch, we were doing both. But it was all in preparation to move to the West Coast from Michigan to train at the Inosanto Academy. And the way things worked out was that I ended up training primarily with Ted Lukai, the late Ted Lukai. And so he is really my primary Filipino martial arts instructor. Oh, one more thing. Boxer Rebellion International is my name. And since 1992, LA Chinatown. And I've recently opened a training camp here in Sattahip, Thailand called Indigo Ranch. Hey, that's it.
Thank you all for introducing yourselves. And now, folks, we're going to get on. So, folks, we were use the same format as we did last time. There will be 4 to 5 sections, actually 5 sections. Each person will get a first crack of it, so to speak, and then we'll get subsequent commentary and additions from the other folks. Okay. All right, so we're gonna get started, and this is section 1. And again, those of you who are just jumping in, please hit that like button. If you have questions, please either submit them here, or you can submit them post-interview to any one of us. Section 1, what are the defining characteristics of FMA and what are they for Filipino American martial arts? And Mark Stewart has chosen to start.
Okay. Well, from my perspective of having started in Okinawan karate and things of that nature, karate, point fighting, and kickboxing and that sort of thing. What I noticed about training Filipino martial arts as a defining factor compared to the other things that I understood about martial arts was flow, the idea of flow, which to me means creating rhythm and breaking rhythm. The idea that you learn weaponry first and then empty hands second. And lastly, the emphasis on using geometry, kind of roadmaps on the floor and roadmaps on the body to dissect them and different ways to move, attack, defend, and so on and so forth. So that to me was the unique facet of Filipino martial arts. In regard to Filipino American martial arts, well, I'd like to start by saying that I don't really think any of the Filipinos living in the USA at the time and teaching Filipino martial arts thought that what they were teaching was Filipino American martial arts. They were teaching Filipino martial arts. But things change. And, as we've gotten into before and we'll get into differently, continuing to do so. But for me, again, from my reference point, with my lineage of Ted Lukai, what I see as the defining factor of Filipino martial arts is that for Ted, Filipino martial arts, or what he was doing, was a holistic approach to using Filipino martial arts as a total package, which meant long weapon, medium length weapon, short weapon, heavy weapon, medium weight weapon, light weapon, blunt weapon, edged weapon, empty hands, right? And that it was long, middle, close range, so many factors, but it was a holistic pursuit and a holistic development and creation by him that he had the luxury to do. And so that's how I see my reference to Filipino American martial arts as being a little bit different from what I learned earlier on, which I thought was a little bit more directly from the Philippines. Not to say that Ted Lucay's wasn't, but he did take the license to make what he had from the systems that he learned from the original masters in Stockton and South San Francisco to develop something new. Still gave high respect to the resources at all times, but he was doing his own thing, and I really appreciate that.
And next, we will hear from Sifu Dwight. Sifu Dwight, what would you like to add?
Okay, so a lot of what Mark said right at the beginning about weaponry before empty hands, emphasis on flow, emphasis on geometry. I had the very same experience because I had never seen anything like that. I had never come across anything like that. I went out to California in '83 because Dan Inosanto was on the roster at the camp. And even though I was a JKD freak, on the roster, it said Dan Inosanto Filipino Martial Arts. And I had this, before '83, this had been my experience of Filipino martial arts, where there's an article in here about Dan Inosanto continuing post Bruce Lee, but this is the final, wait, I think I messed up I was trying to get a cool background like Mahi's, and Yeah, I was trying to get a cool background, and I think I blurred that. Yes, that's what I did.
Yeah, it's blurring the images when you show them. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So can you see this?
Oh yeah, a lot
Yeah.
better, a lot better.
Right. So the heading on this photo sequence is Filipino stick fighting technique. And here's what it says. Part of JKD curriculum. Oops.
Wow. And what year was that again?
This is March 1976.
76. Wow.
March
Wow.
1976. Right. So for me, it was brand new. I had never seen anything like that, but I immediately realized that, well, for one, I thought, okay, I'm into Bruce Lee and Jeet Kune Do, and I know that Dan Inosanto is, as I refer to him, his premier disciple. If he's doing this Filipino martial art thing, it's got to be good, because he's not an idiot. So he's not going to be doing and teaching something that is not worthwhile. So I had no problems. I didn't have any ego that was like, oh, well, this is not JKD, this is not Bruce. And like I knew Bruce Lee. I was happy to follow Dan Inosanto and whatever the heck it is that he was teaching. And I have never regretted it. I mean, not for one day have I regretted it. When Mark talked, I am still, I don't know if I revealed this to you guys, but I am still struggling. Not struggling. And no. Let me rephrase what I'm going to say. It's really tricky for me to find specific delineations, to coin Mahi's word, between FMA and FAMA. I might not see it as clearly as some of you do. And that might be when Mark was talking, and I hate to take up so much time. When Mark was talking about Guro Ted, I was thinking, yeah, but Guro Ted, if Guro Ted is representative of FAMA, all his sources would have been FMA people. Do I have that right, Mahi, or would you differentiate? You know, that I'm just thinking that all his sources are, let's say the first.
Sure, all the sources are FMA. He started with Angel Cabales. I would call that FAMA.
Ah.
He worked with Hiron. I mean, he worked with Stockton. Stockton, in so many ways.
I get it now. All right. So, okay, I see it. Thank you. What was I saying?
Right. No, you were saying, what you were mentioning overall was that you, unlike us, don't see the clear distinction between the two.
Yeah,
I think that's what.
Yeah, I think Mahi just brought it into focus for me.
Well, I think that, part of that may be also, I don't know, Dwight, I'm just guessing, but I know from my experience, I haven't trained in Filipino martial arts in the Philippines yet.
Right.
Now, after this show, I'm not sure I ever will, because I might have a hitman out for it.
Actually, there's something just to add before we get my give his addition to this. I think, and some I've been thinking about like the difference between the two, and I think, Dwight, I think you'll appreciate this. Like if you mostly done the Inosanto blend, and even though there's definitely a bunch of systems incorporated, but if you've just done that and you haven't done their systems, I think it's easy maybe not to see the distinction among the others. I'm just saying this out loud. I'm not saying that's your situation. I'm just wondering if that could be possible yet. I don't know.
It's definitely, I would think, okay, I'll tell you what's been my experience. Having spent most of my time with Inosanto, if I go to somebody who is teaching something specific, I can pick it up.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah.
Right, I can pick it up because I've been groomed and schooled in. I've been groomed at the altar of motion is universal.
Mm.
So it's only if somebody has a specific sequence that they're teaching with which I'm not familiar. So then I have to take a few seconds to work out the motion of it, get the specific pattern, and now I can go with it. You know, and so
Yeah.
so there isn't. I think Inosanto is such a master instructor that I don't think any of his people who have truly absorbed what he teaches would have a problem going from, I'll use your phrase, the blend, to a singular art, a singular approach. I think they'll get it. And along the way, they'll probably go, oh, now I see where Inosanto got that from. He took it from this system.
Yeah.
But over there in the blend, he took this element from that system and put it with this one and the other one and the other.
You're right. It might easily get hidden in there,
Right.
and you have
Now,
stuff parts distracting.
But Mahi, does that exist in FMA as well? Or is that a uniquely FAMA approach?
Modern times over there, with what's being added over there, as far as some, well, I don't want to get off topic on the C lot, but you're seeing obviously different weapons coming to FMA over there is being taught that weren't there from the get-go. You know what I mean? So I think it is going on over there. He might have a better answer than I do. All that, but which in any case, Mahi, what did your contribution to segment 1?
So I kind of see things a little differently. So let me share what I think about it. All right. Number one, when we look at FAMA generally, right? Well, let me step back. When I think about FMA, especially true Filipino arts, right, that haven't been catering to teaching martial arts full time, or pushing, getting some foreigner to teach him a family system. I'm talking about true FMA. It's very instinctive, right? You don't find these guys where sequences have been memorized per se. There are a few things that they do a gazillion times and it just comes, number one. Number two, this idea of miss by an inch and kill by an inch. It's taken to a whole different level, in my experience, especially with the guys who've truly been there. Three, these guys are close to blood. What I mean by close to blood is they've actually drawn their machetes, they've drawn their bolos, and actually used it at some point. Many of them, like some of our teachers, they were guards in the Tondo region, one of the hardest regions in Manila. And it's a very different mindset in many ways. If you look at the brain, right, that's the reptilian brain. It's either do or die, right? There's no thinking, no analyzing. And most of these guys, the way they thought is, feed me, whatever. And then they would do that. And they couldn't repeat it exactly the same way 2 times in a row, right?
Right.
So that's the way I see that. Now, when we start looking at FAMA, it's much more cerebral. It's not so much in the reptilian brain, if you will, right? It's much more in the neocortex, where you have these sequences analyzed, sequences memorized, and I'm able to extrapolate and talk very intelligently about these 36 different patterns, if you will. But it's completely different. So in many ways, on the surface, it might look like the same car, the same kind of cars, but the engines that drive them are completely different. One's a true sports car and the other is a rice rocket. Get the reference, you get it.
Yeah.
So for me, at least, when I look at it, I'm looking at what's driving it, what's driving that motion. Is that killer instinct present and out in the front? Is that what drives that movement? Or is the focus on safety and keeping my students around? Right?
Yeah.
And the access to the weapons. The weapons, most of these guys wouldn't go out and make fancy weapons. They didn't have an EDC, you know. The EDC was, hey, I work in the rice fields. This is what I use. You know, I'm working in the forest. This is my weapon. And these guys are cutting. They are cutting with their machetes with bolos 1,000 times a day. They have a different kind of What's there?
What's wrong?
Stop hearing him.
Yeah, I don't know why that loop happened. Okay,
Oh,
so
You're back. Okay.
so that's a very different engine that's driving it,
Yeah.
as opposed to say FAMA, where how many swing the bolo 10,000, say 1,000 times a day? How many of them are actually slaughtering a pig with it, leave alone getting ready for a fight? And then in many ways we come as FAMA, Mark and I were talking once, we said we come from a place of luxury, and that's why, because we come from this place of luxury, we can sit and analyze and do these 23 other things.
Good point.
You know, and we get caught up in those minor details, whereas, and miss the major point, that is, are you killing me or am I killing you?
Oh, well said.
Yeah.
Obvious.
That's
Thank
a
you.
much better answer than mine.
Oh, no,
I
no.
have a
In-
quick
in
question
terms
on
of-
what Mahi was.
No, in terms of defining characteristics.
Mahi, I have a
y'all-
question also.
Please, Mark.
My question is, we had mentioned before and talked about it that that clearly the founding fathers let's just use the Stockton example, and of course Ben Largusa in South San Francisco, but that crew, right, in their diversity and so on and so forth, were the kind of our founding fathers, at least with the people here.
Yes.
That on the panel, the people on the panel here, they were kind of our founding fathers in regard to Filipino American martial arts. But I would guess that they were closer to the description that you had just mentioned, and then it became in the second generation more luxurious. Yeah.
Yeah. So let me, if I may share one thing, right? Absolutely, right? Okay. I hope I don't get into trouble for this, but so one of the things in Stockton that we would do quite a bit, we'd go there late at nights, right? So understand I'm about 120 miles outside, and we'd go to meet Mano Ron, and then Mano Art Gonzalez would also show up. So what would that be like? Evening, we'd sit and eat, have really cheap moonshine, lots of it, right? And once we were loaded, then when the training would begin, there'd be just 4 or 5 of us. It was a very different training. Very, very different training. And you went back home with a lot of scars, and you would hurt like a bitch for the next 4 or 5 days. You wouldn't feel it then, thanks to the moonshine. But that kind of training wouldn't happen in the normal classes, and definitely never in the seminar circuit. Right? So yes, there was a generation that was very close to what some of the older maestros, some of the older gurus have done. But the question is your access point to it, for them to trust you, to be able to show you that, whether you can sit down and actually hold a drink with them for a long time. Have they invited you into their ranch, into their home, and then the training began, right? So if you look at some of the, if you hear some of the stories of old Stockton, many students would leave because the old crew, the first generation students, were hard asses. They would knock the shit out of people who came,
Right.
and many of them couldn't hold it. Now, I'm not saying that is superior. No, not at all. But what I'm saying is it's a different breed. When you that's what I mean, that the engine that drives it is very different. So the way I think about it is, am I looking to live? And then I approach it in one way where I'm shutting down my my emotions and shutting down my frontal brain, my executive function, and boom, boom, boom. I just do what I've been trained to do a gazillion times, right? That's a very different kind of approach. And hey, I know 64 Sinovalis, okay?
Right.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. Now I'm going into interview mode. Mark,
What's the question?
okay, so as instructors, have any of you ever done something like this? Has this ever happened to you, where you look at students training and you stop class and you go, you know what? Here's the problem with some of you. Y'all are not afraid. Have you ever done something like that because of how the students were approaching what you were doing?
Yes, regards to knife. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there was the range was just much too close because why? Because of of the soft training. So like the best example I can give you, besides me stopping the class, which you asked, but look at Burton's video, in the shock knife video. So he has two guys, same two guys. So he gives them soft, very soft knives, and you can see, they're kind of close, not on top of each other, but close. And then he removes them and he gives them in between, and harder, but I don't recall exactly what it was, but definitely as far as contact, more consequence. Now a little further out, he puts shock knives in them, way out. It's like, and you see it, like, you know what I mean? So yeah. So I mean, if you ever check it, it's a good what I'm trying to say, it's a good example to kind of parallel.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely had to stop. But again, the weapon of focus was none.
I don't train with trainers.
Okay.
So even when somebody's fresh, I hand them live blades. Kind of teaches them respect. People get cut, and they know that before they sign up with me, and that's the way it is. And I'm not saying it's it's a better approach or it's the best approach. No, I think each of us have our peculiarities, and this is my peculiarity. It just brings truth home.
Right. Yeah. It eliminates make-believedness.
Yeah, and absolutely no guards. So suddenly there's no funny business.
Right.
They stick to it.
Yeah.
But that I learned from two guys to do that, and it completely changed my training 10, 12 years ago, and I've kind of stayed with that. I've noticed that when, for example, right, you look at wushu competitions, right? You see them with these aluminum blades, right? And they look really pretty. Now, take that broadsword out and give them a real broadsword. And almost 50% of those motions will not be replicated.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So the tool, the context that you are in dictates the tool. The tool dictates the tactics. That's the way I see it. So if your context is intellectualization, then of course, I'll even use a kukri knife and start doing FMA with it, but if my context is survival, then that will dictate, hey, what is the thing that I carry, that I have with me all the time? And now if I have this, what do I do? What do I make happen with this?
Yeah.
Anybody else have anything before we move on to section 2?
Mark has always been a perfect instructor. He's never had to interrupt a class.
Who, me? Oh yeah, yeah, I always do, man. I always do. But what I do is walk things backwards. When I notice that people aren't catching on, I simplify what I just showed them. So that's how I would do that. In regards to what Mahi said, I'm not quite as extreme as his approach, but I could use a graduating process from a padded, let's call it a padded blade, if that makes sense to you at all. A condom, a blade with a condom, and then to a harder one, and then to a dull blade. Okay, yeah. So those 3. So I haven't got the shock knives yet, but I'm interested in those. But I liked using the progression from safe to less safe to less safe to oh shit, right? Yeah. So that's what makes sense to me.
Section 2. How does one embody and feel this and see the differences between the 2 expressions? Part 1. So there's 2 parts to this section here. And secondly, does it create a different fighter? And we have Mahipal starting this one with follow-up Mark and then Dwight. So what say you? So you're up.
Yeah, short answer is yes, it creates a very different fighter. The reason being the context driving the tools, driving the tactics, right? So when I'm embodying, hey, I'm going to go hang out with my buddies, and we're gonna do, as Mangromi says, calisthenics. You know. I gotta give him the credit for that term. You know,
that's hilarious.
Yeah, calisthenics is very different than okay, we are drunk and now, you know, let's train now, right? It's a very different. You're using a very different part of your brain and how you approach it, right? So I think for me it boils down to whether you're doing this because your life is demands it, dictates it. You know, there are family feuds going generations and you might be fighting again. By the way, we see that within our own culture, right? But we see that with a gun culture, not as much with a knife culture, right? Where in the deep South, you know, you're going to carry your guns, you know how to use it really well, right? So I think it creates, I think the context really matters. And you can usually tell very easily whether this is somebody who is sat and analyzed it to death and can break it down. That's a place of luxury usually. Or is it a person that says, okay, do what you want, and what will emerge, right? So that's one. And then 2, what are you fighting for and what's worth dying for? When we, I think that is what separates the killers from the calisthenics.
No, right. What are we fighting for? Yeah, can't argue that. Guro, Mark, anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, based on the definitions that we've all already used to make the distinctions, I would say, yeah. If we're talking about FMA in its true sense, it's finish fast, simple, direct, finish fast. Be aware of your surroundings and be prepared for the next 1 or 2 guys. I would say, from the FAMA side, is becoming well-rounded.
Or ambidextrous.
Yeah, certainly. That quality of simplicity versus totality, I would say.
Oh, thank you. Sifu Dwight, anything you would like to add?
Well, I'm just thinking that you know, the phrase that comes up in my mind as I listen to what to what Mahi says, especially, is recreational martial artists, commercial or professional martial arts school. There's no way you can put pure FMA into such a context, into such a situation. But you can make your FAMA training and teaching a hell of a lot better if it is informed by certain elements of FMA. You get what I'm saying?
Yes, yes.
Right?
I do, I agree.
So you know how, go ahead, Mahi.
No, please complete your thought. I'll hold my
Okay,
question.
so you know how this was something that always used to freak me out about, I hate to bring it up, JKD people, right? Because you're trying to run a professional school. That means your focus has to be on retention and growth. Okay. They never seem to understand that there's a group, there's a core group that's going to do and train whatever you want them to train. In the commercial martial art world, that's called the Black Belt Club, right? See, in an FAMA school, you could develop that insider club. And those are the ones that go do the moonshine under the moon, right? With the blade, like Mahi is talking about. It's like inner Badui and outer Badui, right? So inside your professional school, there's this core group. And like in the old days of the days of the old Kali Academy, you have to be voted into it. So the teacher is always on the lookout for the mindset that's present or evident that it can be cultivated. And those people, and now you don't feel like you're watering down or selling out, which has always, well, not for everybody, but that has been a factor for a lot of people. Anyhow, I just thought that.
Hey, would that be an
I think I
example?
would say that also is that, I mean, that is not necessarily an American phenomenon alone, but happens worldwide as well as back in the Philippines.
Yeah, it started over there.
No, I'm just saying that in modern times now, I would venture to say that they have been influenced by our model.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. I totally agree
Yeah.
with you.
Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm still trying to find, because I think, and I'll use the phrase again, if your FAMA is not informed by your knowledge, understanding, appreciation for FMA, then you're not passing on the art.
Yeah. The question.
Or your passing on of the art is suffering a little bit.
But what if they don't know, though? Should they be held accountable if they don't know?
Yes.
Heck yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Here's why. If there are people out there who do know, then, and look, I went to California in search of Inasano 20 years before the internet.
Correct.
Right? Okay. So now we have the internet. I don't think there's any excuse for anybody not knowing, especially if they say, oh yeah, I'm really interested in such and such topic. I don't think that today there's any excuse for them not knowing.
No, but here's where I'm coming from, and I'm not saying you're wrong, and I'm not saying I disagree with you. I'm saying, okay, like I'm not gonna pick a system just for political nature. So I graduate this system, and this system was, pretty much everything that descriptive of we defined in FAMA and all that. And I'm kind of taking this away. I didn't bother research and all that, but I guess from that point of view, and that person like that, if they think that's what, because they were told to them by their instructor or a nucleus of people, that, I guess that's the point where I'm coming from. But yes, but too much to your point,
Well, that's
certainly they could have done their own
right
diligence. They could have done their own diligence.
Yeah.
And check things out. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. How I tell people all the time, if you want to understand the way of the world today, in any situation, you got to ask yourself what came before, right?
Oh, good point. Good point.
That's to show you who's calling you'd be.
Who's?
It's my favorite Canadian JKD senior.
Oh, I was gonna say, hey, Burton's on the line or something. I say, Burton. All right, we ready for section 3?
No, Mahi had something to say.
Oh, did he? Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
All right.
Okay.
About my idea for Black Belt Club.
Yeah. So I think one defining characteristic that comes out, right? It's intuitive response versus learning set patterns and memorizing patterns, right? And I don't know what's the right way, right? I don't know what's the right way. Do you start with set patterns and then go into that intuitive response? Does that one school? But that path of, you can say, okay, that's the path to freedom, where you're starting from bondage in some ways to these patterns and moving towards freedom. But if you're already going to end up in freedom, why start from bondage, right? If freedom is where you want to be, right?
Yeah.
Why start in bondage, right? So there's that entire, again, not saying that either approach is right or either approach is the only way. But what I have found among those guys who are closer to actually drawing blood, either have drawn blood or just, learned with guys who actually chopped heads or drew blood and took part in challenge matches,
Right.
that sense of intuitive response was, there is no mistaking it.
Right.
You can call it flow, you can say, oh, he's got beautiful flow, but is it flow or is it really good Renki or Hen, great adaptability?
Yeah, good perception reaction. Or just,
I get you. Is the conundrum then the thing about the difference in living in a place of luxury and litigiousness? I mean, is that one of the sources for the difficulty in being able to preserve the FMA in a recreational structure?
I think so. I think, like I said, it's about what's the engine that drives the machine, right?
Right.
Last time I spoke about tapado, this art of the long stick, right? And this maestro, it's just insane power. And when we went down to Bacolod and I was with these guys, half a day in, my hands are completely bleeding, right? Completely bleeding. And it was just my damn ego that would not let me drop the stick and stop. But then ultimately, I think he was testing me out too. He made me drop the stick. And I said, okay, and my hands were gone. They were gone, They were bleeding like crazy from all the hurt. One of the guys said, he's like, I didn't think you would last this long. I said, okay. I guess I okay.
Yeah.
But it's a very different mindset. So if you are taking that kind of again, I'm not saying that's better or worse, but I'm just saying it's a different engine. So we got to recognize that, and when it's kind of like, okay, you drive motorcycles for recreation and you get a really fun motorcycle, you keep it cleaned up, and then you're a biker, you live on it. It's a very different bike, a very different experience. Are both bikers? Okay,
Right.
sure. Until shit hits the fan, right?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Good. Well, okay. So can we take the new student and tell him, okay, put your right leg out front, and then drop to one knee and smack him in the shin with the padded stick, and then ask him,
Let-
if that was the rail stick or a blade. You see where we would be? And if they go, yeah, I get it. And they go, and then you go, never forget that while you're training.
Maybe I don't have reference points for that. I'll give you 2 reference points that I have. Okay, 2 different systems, 2 different teachers. Right, it's just so you get an idea.
Yeah.
Guru Ransaturno is like, see if you can see this, and bam, bam, and I was like, what the hell happened? And I just felt the whizzing, and here I thought I'd done martial arts for a while, blah blah blah,
Right.
and then a few of his things he connected, and that pain I will never forget.
Yeah.
I was in Philippines, part of the expedition, and then JJ just gives me a helmet. He's like, put it on. Guru JJ Harwas, Mangromi's top student. And he says, you're no longer my brother. Mahi, I'm going to swing this bloody stick at you as hard as I can. I'm going to take your fucking head off. Exact words. I'm going to take your fucking head off. You either move or you don't move. That was that.
Right.
And suddenly that technique was right there. Right? So, but is it something that you could do with a new student? I hope not. But I think it trains a very different, it creates a very different kind of a fighting machine, right?
Yeah.
And that's all I got,
Yeah.
No, I think it's a dying breed too.
But that's the fight, Dean. The
I know,
fight
but
has to be
I know,
preserve and not let it die.
I know. I told you, but I'm not disagreeing with you.
Gonna be
I'm just
very-
telling you, though, status quo. Like, if you look at status
gonna be-
quo, like, okay, who kind of resembles what you guys are talking about, or people? And you look at those who are left, and it's the funnel small, and it's getting smaller. And then you look at how it's being taught today, and this, like, where more is more, and all that, and you kind of these, again, these accumulation of Sinawali drills and all this.
But it doesn't bother me actually. The reason being, it's in some ways it is that we are moving towards luxury where this is not required, right? And the moment it is required, where the context again emerges, where it is required, it will just uncover itself.
I think it's a personal thing. I don't like, I know what I want in my journey. I don't, I'm not saying this is the way it should be, or this should be, we should go this way. So I think there's a personal aspect to it. Obviously, like, it goes without saying, of course.
Yeah.
But the preservation of it, like Dwight was alluding to, it's again, I don't know. That's a tough. I don't know if I have the answer.
Can you make a note for a surprise section 6?
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, I would say also that it's important that we have contrasting things out there. I don't want everything to be all the same. And also I would like to make a point that in my experience, specifically in Bangkok, when we were training and I was teaching, is that we always had new students come in, and some guys were pretty tough, but they never did weapons sparring ever in their life. But they saw us doing it and they asked if they could join in, and they had no background in FMA whatsoever or anything. And they still could kick ass, And my point is there's something about a weapon, whether it's a stick or a blade, to where, it's good to have technology because you can get better But I tell you what, the average Joe with a weapon in his hand is a dangerous character.
No, you're a good athlete, attribute development. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
All right. Can you make a head in for surprise section 6?
sure. What is it?
It's the journey from bondage to freedom. Because-
Journey
Yeah, because I
from bondage.
want to query Mahi on that.
Journey
Oh,
from
boy.
bondage to freedom.
Yeah.
Okay.
When he said, well, if you're gonna end up in freedom, why not stop?
Why go to bondage first?
Yeah,
Gotcha.
I
Okay,
want to go into that a little bit more deeply if we can.
sure,
That's kinky.
sure.
That's kinky, dude.
We will, Dwight, please remove that comment when you editing, please. So I do not lose 100 subscribers due to.
Oh my goodness, please.
Just kidding.
Yeah.
Anyway, we ready for section 3?
Is this the one that I'm supposed to go first?
Yeah, so here it is.
Oh God.
Oh no, you're gonna do just fine. You look, you run. I love Jeet Kune Do. You can do anything.
Yeah. You should see the shite storm that's becoming. I'm gonna put a stop to all that stuff that's going on.
I'm telling you, you're gonna
right
have to.
now.
I'm telling you right now. I went through a week in FMA discussion, and you let it go, man.
Yeah.
You are good. You create monsters, man.
I'm putting a stop to all of it by
Yeah, I'm telling you
It's
from the
not
hard
happening.
way.
Oh yeah, I'm putting a stop to all of that.
Oh, I hope you do,
Yeah.
because it will manifest. Okay, what are the relative strengths and weaknesses at both of these expressions? So Dwight, whatever.
You know,
We got,
oh man, this is going to be a weak answer because in some ways we've talked about that already. Relative strength comes from being closer to the source. Weakness is a dilution, and weakness comes then from being further and further removed from the source. So it goes back to this, right? So let's say that you hear about Florovilla, right? You're telling me that, oh, well, it was a name that I heard that this guy was really great. And that's all you do with it, because you're not at a school where Florovilla is teaching, but you hear the name and you're a member of this school, and you're telling me that you're unable to do any independent research on Florovilla, right? That you can't find a way to get to Ben Largusa, to get to Mel Lopez. I mean, and maybe even get to Guy Chase. You know, I mean, because there's stuff out there. Geez, just go on the internet and type in the search term, the search word, right? So, sorry. I just think that the strengths and the weaknesses are not necessarily in the art or in the approaches themselves. The weaknesses, because look, the same way that the strengths would have come from the input of the people doing the stuff, the weaknesses are not, they're not self-created. The weaknesses come out of the lazinesses, that's a word, right? The lazinesses of the people doing the thing. You see? So if you decide to be lazy with your modern day, with your FAMA approach, so you don't pay attention to mechanics or what have you, and all you do is to wave around the sticks doing the 64 Sinawali or whatever, you're weakening the art. The weaknesses are coming out of you. It's you and your stinking approach to what it is that you're doing. And you're not honoring the FMA, where it came from, what people, what I don't want to use the familiar term of what people went through in order to preserve. Not, I shouldn't even be talking this much with this cold. Do you understand what I'm saying?
No, I do. Again, I
Okay,
mean,
good.
like, there's a tie-in also. I think
Sorry.
it ties in what you mentioned before, like if they're too lazy to do their own research or take it upon themselves
Yeah.
to find out what came beforehand and all that, that would give them better compare and contrast and a better understanding of what preceded and thus what they're doing now. Yeah, so yeah, I can appreciate that.
I mean, well, for one thing, all they got to do is be a subscriber to FMA discussion channel. And
You would
friggin'
think,
watch them.
right?
I mean,
Right
there's
at
a
their-
video,
right at their
there's at least
fingertips.
one video every week.
Right at their fingertips. You know what I mean? So, all right. Next.
Yeah, that's all I got to say about that.
No, thank you. Guro Mahi, anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I think, the strengths themselves are the weakness, right? Because you cannot have a strength without inherent and opposite weakness emerging in any system, right?
Mhm.
So in many ways, many of the arts that I have seen emerged because of a very specific problem that they were trying to solve. That group there uses long sticks. So this group here uses bolo knives, right? So in many ways, there were very specific problems that they were trying to solve and very specific tools that they had. Now, what shapes your thinking is conflict. But if I'm always fighting only the next two villages, guess what my perspective of fighting is? Those two villages. Because, hey, that's what I'm going to be fighting. I better know that really well. Right? So that's the strength and the weakness within this aspect, if you will. And whether it's FMA or any tribal or any clan art, right? You could almost generalize that. And then when you look at FAMA, I think in some ways we're exposed to so much, right? We're exposed to so many damn things that if you think about an OODA loop, observe, orient, decide, and act, right? You're able to see and recognize things that might not have made it into a particular clan. Doesn't mean that they won't respond to it, right? A good example of it is what happened in Moroland when people would go, they just did, and you still respect the Moro fighters, right? It's not. I'm not saying that, but your sensory acuity is much more finely tuned, and there are more tools that I'm able to draw in to say, okay, this is how I deal with it. Again, I'm simplifying it, but I'm trying to get this contrast across, right? Now, because I have the tools doesn't mean I have the quote unquote killer instinct to make it happen. So it's one thing to have the option. I have these 3 guns, but if I don't have the balls to pull the trigger, good luck.
Yeah, no, okay. Guru Mark, you'd like to add anything?
Yeah, Mahi read my mind basically because I'm in love with the yin yang whole philosophy and stuff. So basically, yeah, your apparent strength is your apparent weakness, but I think so. Thus, if one were extreme one way or the other, definitely it's because of a reason that it's that way, and that's the strength. But because they're leaving out the other half, that's your weakness. All right. So without saying too much more, I guess the point that I would say is that if you're trying to, in FAMA, in Filipino American martial arts, in the modern day, if that you're trying to remain true to the source, and that source is that more intuitive and finish fast and kill or be killed kind of thing, is that actually, and I had this conversation in a boxing forum too, and I'll give you a point, but the point that I'm trying to make to continue is that you should maybe actually, that should be the first step. Go with the intuitive first. let them problem solve on their own before you start to produce the system or the technology to help them expand their understanding and even get better. But let them be intuitive to begin with and kind of cycle back and forth between the two.
Okay. Yeah.
And lastly, just to make the point about the boxing form, right? Because I've been showing some videos of using stepping in order to power your strikes, but in 8 directions, okay? And a lot of people have never seen this before. They go, we've only learned footwork for using how to avoid getting hit. And I said, well, you know, in my opinion, I would reverse the order of the way that you learn it. It's only my opinion, but offense is the best defense. And I'll leave it right there.
Yeah. All right. So we are on to now section 4, and section 4 is starting with Guru Mark. How are the weapons chosen in the 2 frames of mind and arts? So Guru Mark.
Okay, so first of all, this part of the answer in regards to Filipino martial arts is not to say in any way that that the Philippines has a class system, because in my opinion, there's a class system everywhere in the world, including the United States. Okay, so now that I've said that, I believe that there's a class system everywhere, and it's been in existence forever, and it still exists. So with that said, people chose weapons based upon their station in life, their wealth and their power, their career, what they did every day. And of course, the most wealthy and powerful had a choice of what they wanted and have the best craftsmanship and a variety of things to use, right? Whereas you get now down into the blue collar world and then into the agricultural, and the tools change and it becomes more a function of utility. What do they use every day? Again, like Mahi pointed out, and they become good at doing that, and they do that in their utility as well as expanding it into the idea of how to protect their life and their family's lives with it.
Okay. No, thank you.
In regard to Filipino American martial arts, again, from the Lucay lineage, it goes back to exactly what I said before, is that we had the luxury of trying out a number of different things for various reasons. Long weapons, medium length weapons, short weapon, blades, sticks, and you name it. And we collected like hockey equipment and different tidbits here and there, and we went at it, you know, at different levels of intensity. So because we had that luxury, I think recreational is a little bit too light of a term, because within the term recreational martial arts, there can be some intense hardcore as well.
No, sure.
Not quite the same as the jungle or the street, so to speak, right? But so yeah, for Filipino American martial arts, in my perspective, is that we had a choice of learning many things, and that's how we made our choice. But in regard to utility now, for myself, this will be my last point, is I live here in Thailand, and I'm on my bicycle every day for 4 or 5 hours per day. So I have a long stick that I carry, which is basically the utility of scaring dogs away that chase me. I haven't had to hit one yet because they're scared of it. You just point it at them and stuff. But it's also on my bicycle for other reasons, because there is road rage here. And not everyone likes farang. Farang is foreigner, right? Not everyone likes farang over here. And so I've had some close calls, and I think that stick kind of kept people away. And if it didn't keep them away visually, I would have used it. I also carry a folder, a trainer, but it's also utility. I need it for cutting things. Okay, I go hiking in the woods, in the jungle and shit. And then I have a hardened pen that I keep, which is a utility. But if I'm forced to use any of 3 of them, I can probably do a damn good job with them.
There you go. All right. And we next, Guru Mahipal, anything you would like to add?
Just add a little bit to what Mark said. I think what's your everyday carry, right? And for example, that's what becomes the specialization and the specific range that, I hate that word, but I can't think of another word right now. The specific range that you have focused on. For example, if you're in really narrow streets, you're not going to be carrying a 7-foot staff. Well, you could, but really. Or if you're on flatland, or you are in a tropical forest, that's going to dictate what you have, right? And with FAMA, like my gripe is, I'll just share 2 gripes. I mean, it's wonderful, but still I have a problem with it. Start seeing kukri sinavalis. Seriously, don't do that. Don't do that. It's a
What?
weapon. Yeah,
What?
yeah. I'll send you some videos. Yeah, sinavalis with a kukri knife. Or then you start seeing these set patterns where I see people pick up 2 Kampilan trainers and go at each other with it.
You see,
And I'm like, have you really ever carried a Kampilan? Have you
That's-
held a Kampilan?
this
Right?
is the weaknesses that I'm talking about. Some person, right,
One person.
didn't
You
really,
meant to say moron.
it,
Go on.
right? It didn't really think it through. I've seen double stick. I heard that the stick is the training tool for the blade. So I'm gonna get double Kampilan and I'm gonna start doing Heaven 6 with it. And wow, look how creative I am.
Oh. Meanwhile, the rest
I
of the
use this.
community-
I do Sinawai with 2 spatulas.
Well, yeah, that's the environment you live in.
Well, but they're treated with chili, hot chili, and lime.
Right. See, that, so,
So, Guro Mahipal, were you all set? Did you have?
So yeah, I think so. So I think you're again, the context defines the tactics that then defines what you train and how you train, right? Creativity is good, but it can also get you into this forever creative state and create more problems than solutions, right? So in terms of how weapons are chosen, what's the context you find yourself in? And hey man, look, be the first to admit, okay, I love training with the Kampilan. But dude, am I gonna walk downtown?
No, I know. Yeah. Unless you're in Texas.
Yeah. Somebody like me walking with a Kampilan will get more than a few looks.
That's the only place I could think of. But Sifu Dwight, anything further you wanted to add to that?
well, again, to go up from what Mahi said, I wondered about the context in which the question was asked. So these two gentlemen took a historical approach to it, and I'm just wondering if that was the context, or if the context was more like, well, are different systems known for focusing on different weapons, and if they are, how did they choose those weapons? You get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I mean, I don't know enough about the history to answer if that was the context, but in the context of like personal carry, I don't do much other than go to the gym to train my group and then use public transportation to train my clients. So the telescopic baton is my choice of carry. My Rasta look is my best self-defense, nobody is interested in troubling me, because I am the one love guy.
You don't get harassed on the bus.
No.
You don't get picked on the bus.
Look, man, you want to hear something? Even the cops say hello to me.
Believe it. I think it's just you got that,
right?
You have that smiley face.
The cops say hello to me.
I believe
I'm the black guy sitting on the train. The cops get on and they go, "What's up?" I mean,
No, I just think they just see a good soul, a friendly guy.
I have the charmed existence.
I think so.
In the meantime, I don't know if what I'm carrying, I'm actually allowed legally to do so. In
the state of Florida? Oh, you
Yeah.
don't know. Oh.
I don't even know if I am.
Gosh, well, hopefully if somebody's listening, hey, if you're listening and you are from the state of Florida, if you could give some feedback on collapsible batons, or if you don't live in Florida,
I'll tell you a story though. This was 1989, where I don't know if I've ever told you this story, but I was outside a building waiting for people to come show me the building, because I was looking into renting an apartment. And I'm standing outside the building and I'm going like this on the tree.
Oh, you were doing 6.
And the cops show up.
Oh boy.
And they go, "What are you doing?" I go, "What do you mean?" They go, "Well, we heard that there's somebody down here making hand signals." I was like, "What?"
What do you think, like gang signs or gang signals?
Because apparently there was this is 1989. There was a crack house on that avenue and there were lookouts.
Oh.
Right? So I show them what I was doing. Now, at that time, I used to wear a fanny pack. It was 1989. They were in fashion. And
we'll let you get away with it. Okay.
Yeah. And so I carried the asp, as we called it back then, right? I carried that on my left hip. So they go, "Well, what's that?" So I took it out and I gave it to them. And they were like, "Huh," and gave it back to me. Because in 1989, city of Miami Beach, PD, they didn't know what a telescopic baton was.
Oh, no. Okay. This was before. No kidding.
Yeah, they had no idea.
Okay.
Yep. And
well, hopefully maybe somebody on here will know the legality of what you're carrying. Hopefully somebody will chime in.
Yeah, that was my trusty Imada Pro. It was a baton designed by Jeff Imada.
Oh, you knew it. Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Collector's item.
Oh, yeah. Vintage, as we say.
Yeah, you don't want to.
You don't want to say old.
No. So are we collectively good to go to section 5?
Yeah.
Okay. So section 5, access to learn FMA and access to learn FAMA. And Guro Mahipal, you are first.
So when I speak about FMA, I'm talking about the old school, the intuitive response, right? You better know the right people, and you better prove your loyalty before that stuff is going to come out. I don't think you are going to be able to buy that. You'll hear the term sangria familia, blood of the family, and you got to understand that you're not, and you're in or you're not in. And if you're in, then there's a certain code that you better follow.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
So that access is hard and it's earned, I believe. Right? FAMA, much more, in this case, I'm taking a professional school. And this approach, hey, let's figure out what we're doing. Let's have some fun. The focus is quite different. It has become about retention and growth. So very different creatures. It's not that you cannot evolve into to steal from Dwight. You cannot evolve into becoming that member of that black belt club. But it's almost like what the Chinese had, the outdoor and the indoor students. And the outdoor students paid for the indoor students to learn. So.
I like that. Sifu Dwight, anything you would like to add?
Not really. There's just something about the art. Like I said at the very beginning, all I knew is those couple of photographs that I had seen in that magazine in 1976.
Another collector's item.
Yeah. I didn't go get myself a pair of sticks in 76 when I saw that. I got my first pair 7 years later in 83 when I landed on the shores of Orange County. Because I was an intrepid explorer, seafaring explorer. So I sailed right to California because I'm Filipino. Right, but no, in all seriousness, I became somewhat fascinated with the art. And that's why I'm forever grateful. So just like Mark said at the beginning, Mark, that one of the fascinating things for me was the geometry.
Yeah, me too. I mean, it changed my life.
Yeah, that right. And then this the other thing that, and Dean, whenever we're on with Steve Grody, we always joke about the flow and what have you. But I just found that to be amazing, that you could just have somebody go, okay, attack me, and then they could just move.
Yeah, right, move right. Yeah.
I've never seen that before.
No, it's same.
Always, right?
Same here.
And here comes the attack,
you're going
right, and then you move. But these people would just go, okay, move. Like, no, it's not supposed to be like that.
Right? No, I agreed. When I first saw it, I was immediately captivated.
So I fell in love with the art, and even though I have not had access, right? I never lived in California or what have you, but I've seen a fair amount of people. I mean, does anybody remember Bujanin Mateen? Does anybody know?
And I've heard that name before.
Yeah,
probably from you actually.
Yeah, right. So he was a fixture in Florida in the 80s, right? And so I got to see stuff with that. I got to see stuff with Sayok in Naples.
When Bo was there.
Yeah.
Father. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Right. So Mahi's 100% correct. And it goes back to something else that he said. It's generational. If you are unfortunate enough to be studying under a watered down generation instructor, I feel sorry for you.
Yeah, like if you never got to see stuff previous to that.
Right. But I also blame that instructor for being watered down, because there's access. There's access.
There's a lot of the Sifu. There's a lot out there.
Yes, but again, whoever said that the journey was supposed to be easy?
I'm not disagreeing with you.
Right?
I totally.
You could just listen to some of what Mahi and Mark have said tonight, and that could give you an idea, right, of how to go into your class tomorrow and do things a little bit differently.
Yeah, like recalibrate your class, so to speak.
Yeah.
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 Interesting.
I mean, if you're watching this and you hear a guy say, well, if the goal is freedom, why don't we just start with freedom?
Yeah.
You hear a guy say, you know, look, a major difference between the two approaches is intuitiveness and collection of technique. And you don't go into your class tomorrow and find some way to apply that tidbit of information, you stop.
Yeah, or like if you don't even attempt to re-engineer.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, it's got to start up here, of course,
Yeah.
obviously.
Well,
Something.
I mean, I
tell you though, but some people
got my notes
just
here for
not.
section 6.
I know, but this is where we get into. Yes, we're gonna get. But I think some people, they have such subjective and attachments. Like I think it's just hard for them to like look outside or change. You know, but yeah, I mean, I agree. Guru Mark, anything you'd like to add to this?
Yes. Yeah, you know, in the Philippines too, on the other side of things, not the intuitive, hardcore side, but you have to remember that arnis is the national sport and that it is taught in schools.
Over there, yeah, for sure.
Okay, so it's kind of like the same in Thailand with Kabi Kabong. People, they learn it, but they have no, well, I'm not going to say that it's always true with everyone, but it kind of is what Dwight is talking about is some people don't understand how the depth of what they could learn, even from those gym classes, and that may lead them to something really special in their life if they keep looking and doing the research.
Right.
But you do have that superficial, I'm going to go ahead and call it that, superficial gym class that teaches how to do the stick. Okay. Now it's not limited to that, but it's highly accessible. Okay, so even the Philippines is highly accessible, to learn arnis. All right. And then getting back to the point about the FAMA is that kind of some unmentioned things is that Filipino martial arts has taught a lot of these guys that are to the combatives genre. And I'll use our friend Tom Sotis. Okay, Tom Sotis, right?
Tom Sotis, the man.
Yeah, okay, and his system is called Amok. Now, he clearly has studied Filipino martial arts.
Oh, he was on Greg Aland guy, yeah.
Yeah, but he teaches it as an American scientific combatives use of the knife.
No, and I don't
think that's an interesting subject, and he's not the only one. There's others out there.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And oh yeah, and then the other point that I wanted to bring up is something that we discussed in our private chat was there has been a movement to align the Filipino martial arts with Taekwondo and other successfully commercial enterprises in the martial arts world to kind of piggyback and to be co-taught and promoted along those lines. So
yes,
you know, those are all interesting dynamics.
That's one way to characterize it. I mean,
Yeah,
depending on, I guess depending on what side of the aisle you're at, you know.
Yeah.
Mahi, you want to say anything about that, Mahi?
I know when to shut up.
Yeah, he wants to comment on the inherent strengths and weaknesses of access.
Of access. Hey,
Yeah,
Dwight.
Yeah.
Dwight, we're at your favorite part.
Oh, the surprise section 6.
Section 6, and I'm going to say you're going to want to. Wait, before I jump to section 6, folks. Was there anybody? Did anybody had any? Did I miss anybody? Any final comments? Are we ready for section 6? Okay.
Yeah.
I guess we're ready. Dwight, you want to lead it off?
Okay, so these are the 5 things that I wrote down when I had to say it. So the word mindset, the word intuitiveness. Then I think it was Mark that said let them cycle, but I didn't finish writing that out. Then offense is the best defense, and then the creative state. What creative state avoidance? Oh, okay. Right. So that offense is the best. Offense is the best defense. Puts me in mind of this tall bruiser Filipino Hawaiian named Richard Bustillo, who told me, right, when you get the new student, teach them how to hit, because defense is instinctive. So people know how to get their hands up to stop getting hit in the head,
Oh, interesting.
but they don't know what to hit back with. So teach them how to hit, right? But now but here's my question. Okay, so now we're talking about intuitiveness. Can I start the new student with, here's how to attack with angle 1?
Why not?
Huh.
Yeah, I think you have to teach attacking before you teach defense, because I don't know if it's not natural or intuitive to strike, but it just makes more sense to me. Is that, you know,
Well, here's the thing. How can they?
Because you have to be combative. If you're not combative, you're going to run away all the time.
Okay, tell me
Which is a good form of defense as well.
Okay, all right. No, seriously, tell me if this makes sense to you. So my approach has long been this. We start with what we call coordination drills. And then we move up the ladder to combat drills. So let's say I teach you 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And then I teach you that stationary. Then I teach it, then I want you to do it advancing. I want you to do it retreating. I want you to angle left, angle right, moving forward, angle left, angle right, moving backward. That's all part of coordination. And I tell you, you want to get this quickly, because this is not where it's at. It's when we take that coordination stuff and convert it into offensa defensa. That's long been my approach. Am I missing something? Should I go into offensa defensa from day one when they haven't yet developed the ability to make the stick talk? Because that's where we want to get to, the freedom that Mahi talks about.
So
But
why go
I'll be
to the
honest,
other?
I don't know. I have not worked out a way before tonight. I didn't even think of it that way. So that's what I'm saying. So he's given me something to think about all morning, all morning tomorrow, to put into class tomorrow night. Right? So
A good problem, though.
yeah, I love these problems.
You know.
Yeah.
Well, let's ask them. Well, so your question is, can you skip that and go right to the freedom? Is that
Yes.
how I'm? Is that correct?
I mean,
Okay.
do any of you see an inherent weakness in that approach? Coordination drills first, combat drills second.
I would say that in an academy setting, commercial setting, you have to do it your way, Dwight. And that, but what, like if Mahi's talking about the backyard and the hardcore, I say you go with the intuitive first.
Okay.
Yes, I agree with that. And, you know, I'll be reminiscent if I don't give credit to who got me thinking like this, right? Because this is not my brilliant thought, though I may have framed it that way. So it was Maestro Keating and Guru Mark Mikita. So I owe this to those two, right?
Yeah.
And they have a very interesting approach, right? I say, okay, this is the problem. Go figure it out and come back to me. Right? And you think you figured it out, and then they frustrate you a little more. Nope, didn't work. Go. So how I approach it, I'm not saying that this is the best way, but this is how I have found it to work for me. They say, okay, show them how to shoot for the target. What is the target I'm trying to get at? And just familiarize them with the weapon. Okay. Now, instead of saying that this is the only way this weapon has to move, let them discover some new curves. The most dangerous guy is an untrained guy with a knife. He always gets the guy. He always gets the guy who's trained.
Self-discovery, an aspect of self-discovery, I guess. Yeah.
I don't even think they think about it that way. They just say, okay, I have to get the weapon there. Whether it's
Right,
my
right.
fist,
And they're going to, right, okay, okay.
and it just goes.
Right.
Yeah.
Nothing to it.
Huh. But like,
But
like Mark
when-
was saying though, for public or commercial, but you're saying small, private, small groupings, intuitive.
I am not, I'm not your guy to talk about commercial. I wouldn't even know how to operate there. So,
Yeah.
so I'm way out of my depth there. So I joke about it. I am like, I'm not disciplined enough to be
Yeah.
able to run.
I'm the self-appointed representative for all of the professional martial art instructors out there.
No, I think it's a wonderful skill set. I just don't have it. So
Yeah.
I'll just be bullshitting if I talk about it.
Yeah, it's not for everyone. Yeah,
Okay,
Yeah.
can I ask something else, Dean?
sure.
Okay. Mark, do you remember at the Inasano Academy ever hearing the phrase, frustration is good?
No,
Okay.
well, I was very frustrated.
Okay. Right.
So maybe that's why they didn't ask you.
I wish they would have told me. I
Okay.
wish they would have told me, damn it.
Has anybody ever heard this?
I have not personally, no.
Okay. I recall it as coming from Inasano and him saying that it came from Johnny Lacoste. I kind of know that a lot of times when he says that, it's because he doesn't want to take credit for coming up with something. When I heard that, it didn't give me any problems at all. I go, okay, frustration is good. That means if I find myself frustrated, I work it out. My experience has been the current generation, they don't accept that. They get frustrated, they leave,
Mm.
right? So that's why I think sometimes a lot of what we discuss is a generational thing.
Work could be work ethic.
Every generation says that.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, my granddad thinks I've had a very soft and easy life. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no. Okay, I see where you're coming from. Yeah,
So what I'm
like
saying, every
grandparents.
generation says that, but I think every
Yeah.
generation also has these groups that
Right.
gravitate towards that, and takes a special kind of passion, you know. It takes a special kind of passion to say, I want to solve this. And if everyone thought like that, we would be in a very different world. But not everybody does that. They want the answers to be fed to them so that they can sound intelligent,
Right.
rather than do the hard work of discovering
Yeah.
what would be intelligent for them.
You know, so one of my beliefs when it comes to teaching martial art professionally is to try to imbue that kind of mindset into your students, where they welcome being frustrated. They welcome being told, work this out. Come back to me later with
Problem
what you
solving,
came up
yeah.
with. You know, because if it's not being taught in American culture, let's say, if it's something that we import from Filipino culture, then I say more power to it. You know, because then we don't end up cultivating a crew of softies. You know,
Behind the race, though.
yeah, I just think
Yeah, I mean, we're getting like.
I just think that one of your responsibilities as an instructor is to help students to cultivate the mindset.
I disagree.
with that.
He's shaking his head.
I think it's a student's responsibility to extract it, to steal it, to draw it out from the teacher. Only then it's yours. If the instructor has to instill it, isn't that violence? Because I'm saying that this is the path for you.
I don't know.
Okay.
Dwight's.
Okay. So it
Hey.
okay. I'm rephrasing it. it becomes the instructor's responsibility to teach the students how to extract it. I'm just kidding, right? But no, but you know what? You know what? That puts me in mind of the okay. Tell me what you think of this. The word educate, because when you said that, extract, right? The word educate. What's the etymology of that word?
To draw from within.
To draw from within, exactly. So, you know, so when they talk about, when Linda Lee says that Bruce Lee is a self-educated man, right? Or when Bruce Lee says that all knowledge is ultimately self-knowledge or what have you, right?
Actually,
So,
J. Krishnamurti who says that, but okay, I'll let that pass.
okay. Well, as Mark told me one time, right? Pretty much anything that Bruce Lee said is what Krishnamurti said. You got it from him, right? Mark pointed that out to me one time, right? But well, now I have more to think about tomorrow morning.
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I know, but like I said, could be a really good problem.
Of course.
When you go into class Tuesday, they're
Of course.
gonna see, you know what, Sifu, they're gonna see you walk in and they're gonna be like, this is a changed man. They're gonna see you like smoking and all that.
Dwight's gonna come in and he's gonna go, okay, stand in front of me. I'm gonna slap you, and you have to stop it in some way.
Yep.
Yeah, he's got some really, and I don't know if you guys noticed that, but he's got some his students are just some of the kindest people I ever met. So whatever you're instilling in them, Sifu, keep doing you, man, because those are some really nice people. Just generally nice human beings.
Yeah, I've been lucky, you know. Like I hear horror stories about my colleagues and the kind of people that walk into their schools and what have you, and I've never really
You
had
got a special group there.
Yeah. Look, since we're talking Filipino martial arts, right? I remember one Saturday afternoon, so everything's closed down. I would usually close the door, but for whatever reason, I left the door open. And these four rough-looking guys walk in, right? I mean, the sign out front says martial arts, right? These four rough-looking guys walk in. So three of them sit down, and they got the screw face on, you know, right? And one of them says something and something. And then they look up because above the sliding door, I had the pictures of my instructor. So one, of course, is of Dan and Asano, right? So they go, who's that? I go, you know who that is, right? They go, yeah, I know who that is. I go, that's my teacher. I swear to you, let's call him the leader. He yells whatever command it is. The other three stood up at attention, bowed to me, and walked out.
Wow.
You understand? That's my life.
Wow.
That's my life. They looked at a picture of Dan and Asano, heard that he was my teacher, bowed to me, and left.
Oh, that was enough. Jeez. Case and problems. Hey, forget verbal jujitsu, man. You just point to a sign. You just point to a picture.
Yeah, yeah. So I should just walk with a picture of me and him in my pocket.
You know what you do? You're on the bus.
Okay, so if that would have been me, right? And they asked me, I would say, sorry, I'm just a janitor. And then I would have fucking cracked it with my mop and stuck it up the bum.
Yeah, you would have been dragging around a mop or something. Jeez.
Yeah.
Wow. Guro Mahi, anything? Anything to our going off topic a little?
Thank you guys for indulging me in that craziness.
No, I thought it was fun. No worries. All right, well, guys, if nobody's got anything else, that does wrap up part 2.
All right.
Okay, guys.
So, It was wonderful. I appreciate all those who are watching. Again, folks, if you do have questions, please, I haven't checked the comment section yet. So you can leave them there, or what some people did last time, they actually PM'd some of the guests here. So by all means, please do that, because there is tentatively part 3. Am I correct in that, or am I thinking way too ahead?
I leave my Monday nights available for you.
Because
We gotta
somebody
cut
brought up
that out too,
something.
Mark. We gotta cut that part out.
I only mentioned that.
Mahi brought up a point on the show 3, so yeah.
That's what I thought. I thought somebody brought you. Okay, all right. Oh, and Guro has to go. So he's got to get his daughter. So let's again, guys, I want to thank you for coming on. I truly enjoy this. Obviously, we'll be in touch for if there is going to be a part 3. And again, thank you. This was a lot of fun. Appreciate it.
Thanks,
Sounds
guys.
good. All right.
Good night.
Good night, guys.